Welcome to the Dell TIA Now studio, where industry stakeholders from around the world, across the value chain, delve into the transformational changes taking place in the telecommunications industry. I'm Lamore Schaffman, Director of Content Development, TIA and TIA Now, and joining me today at the Mobile World Congress 2016 panel is Dermot O'Connell. He's Executive Director and General Manager of EMEA for Dell OEM Solutions. Dermot, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, delighted to be here.
So Dell has been in the ICT world for about 20 years, long before the Internet of Things was on the buzzword of everyone's lips. What have you seen in the marketplace? How has the marketplace evolved over the course of the past years? And now, what is Dell doing now to work in that marketplace?
Right, so we've seen huge changes in how IT and this OT, which is most interesting for us. So IT, the IT world, as we all know that we use our technology today, and this operating technology world that's typically around machinery and heavy plant and stuff like that, those were different worlds up to now. What we're seeing is those coming together into a single infrastructure, becoming something called IoT. So we're noticing customers evolving how they use data, how they use analytics, and how they put all this together to drive new business value. Stuff that could never be done in the past. It would have cost hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to do some of these solutions today that people are doing in their garages with little sensors for $10, $1, 50 cents, 10 cents. Yeah. It just keeps going down all the time. It's an amazing time to be in technology.
Very exciting. So OEMs are faced with different challenges.
Yeah.
What would you say are the key challenges that they're looking at right now?
I'd say there's a couple. I would think security is a huge one for everybody. I mean, you only have to read any of the IT media. You know, there's denial of service attacks on all the websites. There's every kind of sensor is a target for an attack. So security is a huge one. The other one that's probably a little bit less exciting is just globalization. I mean, we have all the governments in the different countries. They like to have their own regulations and rules and controls and imports and exports. And for an OEM trying to drive a product on a global basis, that's hugely challenging. And I mean, we have a lot of experience in helping customers with that. So it's how do you get into these countries, get out of those countries, regulatory approvals, that kind of stuff. On the security side, it's really about having an architecture in mind before you start. So if you think of a typical IoT solution, a ton of sensors on various things. Well, if you connect all those directly to the cloud, each one of those sensors becomes a potential point of attack.
Right.
So our solution is to really, we launched some products quite recently, our Edge Gateway 5000, and that product sits between all of those sensors and all that equipment and the internet, and becomes like a kind of a spam filter / firewall for all of that, and it becomes the attack surface. So it has some clever things built into it to make sure that it really is the right sensors we're talking to, it really is the right website that it's communicating with, and so on, and kind of building that ecosystem early on rather than, you know, building it first and then figuring out what do we do with security afterwards. You really need to think early about how you're going to secure an infrastructure with something like IoT.
So it sounds like you really need to know what kind of solutions you want to develop, and customers, OEMs, should be bringing you in right in from the very beginning.
Exactly.
So that you can be part of the solution right from the very start, because you're going to help them understand what are the questions they should be asking, how they should be structuring everything.
So it's one of the things in IoT that's interesting. I mean, there's a ton of IoT conferences going on around the world.
Yeah.
But really, if you look at IoT is a technology enabler for every vertical that exists. So what you find is that, like, people always ask me, what's going to be the IoT platform? Who's going to win the IoT war? I would say 100 companies are going to win that war, right? Because someone in healthcare will have a completely different solution to somebody in industrial automation, or somebody in security, or someone in various different, they're completely different architectures and different systems. They all use a premise that, you know, the technology to create a solution has got a lot less expensive now, right? The amount of power and computing we have to analyze all this has grown infinitely. The power in software systems to analyze that and do things with it has been much more sophisticated, much more sophisticated now than it ever was before. But still you need the vertical expertise, because, you know, in a healthcare scenario, that's quite different to what you would do with your watch measuring your steps. Is it linked to healthcare? Kind of, but I would say there's a lot more mission critical. You know, we don't want to go and get your study done for your very important exam on something that's a kind of a consumer grade system. So very, very different technologies and different verticals.
And so now, how is Dell actually differentiating itself in the marketplace? There are a number of competitors to what
Sure,
Dell is offering.
sure,
So
sure.
what makes OEMs want to come to you as opposed to any of the others?
So I think a lot of the OEMs we compete with are platform type companies. They make a product, they make a device, they do a very good job on doing that. What they typically don't have is the global reach that Dell have. They don't have the services wraparound that Dell have. They don't have the deep experience in IT and security and managing systems and software and all that kind of stuff that Dell can wrap around OEM solutions. And that's where we find customers get very excited about, because they're really good at creating their piece of software that does something. Or they're very good, they create a card, and that card is world class at doing something. But how to get that to be a global product around the world, they need a lot of help typically with how to do that. And we're doing this OEM business for over 15 years, and we're pretty good at it, actually, at helping customers to get that product out into the marketplace in a cost-effective way also.
And so now part of that is not only are you helping companies actually develop new products and services, but also the business models are changing.
Absolutely.
So what are some new business models that you see evolving because of what is possible with IoT and also the OEM solutions that you offer?
So what we would have seen previously was an OEM would have built a product. They would have bought the hardware maybe from us. They would have bought some software components from whoever they needed that from. They would have integrated all that together and shipped that as a turnkey appliance. What we're seeing now, a lot of the software, a lot of the OEMs, potential OEMs are saying, well, maybe we don't want to do the hardware. Can you just do that piece for us? Because we really want to focus very much on our differentiated IP. We want to write our software, we want to develop our card, we want to do the piece that we do really well, and we want somebody else to take away all the rest of the complexity from us. Because it's pretty complex, right? When you're on a global scale especially,
right.
Can be quite. So that's one trend. The other kinds of stuff we're seeing is a lot more experimentation. I mean, what's really exciting for me about IoT is that you can do something you can do experiments at literally no cost. We opened up 3 IoT labs around the world this year. The most recent one was in Singapore. We opened up one in Silicon Valley. We opened one in Ireland, actually, where I'm from in Limerick. And those labs, the innovation we've seen coming into those has been incredible. And some of them are very well thought out business plans with someone, this is the product, this is the roadmap, this is how we'll build it. Others are, hey, we have an idea, a concept we'd like to have a look at, but we've no idea where this could go, and working with those people in labs and some of those is fantastic.
Fantastic. So one of the things I've seen that Dell has a tendency to do is do a Dell outlook of 1, 5, 10. So if you're looking at 1, 5, 10 out with regard to IoT and Dell's OEM solutions to match the growth in that area, what would you say? What are you looking at in the next year, the next 5, and the next 10 years out?
I would say in the next year we'll see some really, really cool IoT solutions that probably won't become ubiquitous. In the shorter term, there'll be maybe more niche products. I think when you go 5 and 10, we really will see the power of what IoT can do. And I know the OEM will be in the middle of that. We'll be in the middle of that because that's the kind of stuff that we do. We're the engineering side of Dell making all these products. But I think you'll see a lot more, like a lot of the adoption, a lot of the hype so far in IoT has been around consumer devices. It's been around watches, it's been around fitness trackers, it's been around home heating systems, cooling systems, that kind of stuff. And Nest, those have been fantastic products. It really hasn't taken off that much in the industrial or in the commercial side, but we're seeing a huge amount of work going on now in building management. Sounds really boring, but if you think about building management, I mean, when the building's too cold, it's too hot, the air isn't the way we want it, think about a system that doesn't know if it's hot or cold outside. Most building management systems have no idea. They don't know it's a bank holiday and there's going to be nobody in Monday. Someone has to program all this stuff in. So I think we'll find a lot more autonomous type systems doing buildings. I think in 10 years time you'll probably see some driverless cars on the road, which will be kind of interesting to see how that's all going to work. We're hearing things like insurance companies saying, hey, our business is going to completely change because if you're insuring people that drive cars, there's no people. There's some pretty big transformation in that business about to happen. So I think you'll see just a march on a more amazing technology. And
so a very exciting time for all of us.
Absolutely. Always.
Dermot, thank you so much for joining us here at Mobile World Congress at the Dell TIA Now studio. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks very much.
And for our continued coverage from the event floor at Mobile World Congress 2016, please go to tianow.org and follow us at Twitter at TIA_now. So long.